Hey Andrea, let's see what you wrote. Okay, so for school children, their teachers have more influence on their intelligence and social development than their parents. All right. Experts throughout the developing and developed world have debated whether teachers or parents have a greater influence on children's apostrophe-s intelligence and social development. Some believe that teachers have a stronger role in the development of children's apostrophe-s growth. Personally, I disagree. This essay will discuss both sides using examples from the recent scientific neuropsychiatry literature to demonstrate points and prove arguments. On the one hand, there is ample evidence that teachers exert a significant impact on children's apostrophe-s behavior and cognitive abilities. The central reason behind this is twofold. Firstly, teachers have a professional background in communication with young people. They know specific techniques with which to have an effective dialogue with their students. Secondly, especially nowadays, they have more time of exposure. It's a little awkward. I think you mean they have more time just with the children, really. Okay? In fact, these days children usually spend, with a D not a T, more time at school than with their parents. For example, a recent survey conducted by the Norwegian government shows that adults who valued their previous school teachers positively, okay, so some change in word order, have a more successful career. Okay, great. I don't know why you hit return here. It should probably just be the same paragraph, so put it back next to here. It must not be forgotten that the role of professional educators has always been considered fundamental in every society. Therefore, it is conclusively clear that teachers can significantly influence children's apostrophe-s development. On the other hand, although there is a case for teachers enhancing cognitive skills of young people, the impact of parents cannot be overstated. This is mainly because of the imprinting theory. In fact, based on this psychology paradigm, parents exert a more profound influence on their children in comparison to other adults who come later in their lives, as they interact with them from the very beginning. Not less important, genetics, plural, not singular, given by both parents, determines significantly, so genetics determine the cognitive abilities of children significantly. Again, word order. An important perspective and perspective. What do you mean by perspective? I don't think this is the right word. An extensive study by the American Society of Neuropsychology showed that parents' IQ and children's IQ strongly correlate. Consistent with this line of thinking is that children with parents affected by disorders of social interaction are more prone to develop the same pattern of problems. Thus, it is possible to state beyond doubt that parents exert a stronger influence on their children's development. Lovely. From the examples and arguments given, I firmly believe that both social and cognitive abilities of young people can be determined by interaction with adults. Additionally, parents play the most important role, even if compared with teachers. Very nice. It's lovely. I really liked it. Some really good vocabulary, some really good grammar, and I was, on the whole, pleased with it. Nice development, really. Okay, so in terms of the task response and the coherence and cohesion, it was nice. There were just some little things, but nothing really, really, really serious. Okay, let's take a look at your second essay. Okay, so now we have the bar chart with the chip sales of AMD and Intel. It would really help me if you could include the image. I've seen it about 100 times at least, if not more, but it always helps to see it so I can refer to it, okay? So just include it in the file if you are able to do that. Let's see. The bar chart, we don't usually call it a bar graph. We call it a line graph, but we call it a bar chart or a pie chart. So the bar chart illustrates the sales of Intel and AMD chips in France from 2017 to December 2017. Data were brought by chip manufacturer France. I don't know what that means. What does that mean? I'm not sure at all. So, sales of Intel microprocessors varied significantly during 2017. In January, the Intel chips sold were 50,000. This number increased sharply up to 80,000 and almost 100,000 in February and March, respectively. Then sales fell. Okay, this should just be fell. So then sales fell to 30,000 in April. A consistent growth followed at 80,000 and 125,000 in May and June, respectively. A second significant decrease was registered in July with less than 50,000 sales, followed by a plateau at around 75,000 from August, capital the A, and to October. A third growth was recorded at the end of the year at 100,000 and 105,000 in November, December, respectively. Okay. Let's see. It's fine. It's a little repetitive, okay? Because, and I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, you just have up and down. So, of course, it's going to be repetitive. Yeah, but let's try to vary up the language a little bit. So rather than it went to this, it fell to that. It rose to this, it fell to that. Rather than doing this, let's, maybe kind of like liven things up a little bit. So, let's say, so you said here, for example, a significant decrease was registered in July with less than 50,000. However, it increased by 25,000 and stayed stable for the following 2 months. Okay, so just change the language up a little bit. Vary it as much as you can, all right? Subsequently, the last 2 months of the year recorded an increase where sales rose to the same levels as February. Okay, so you have to vary the language up. You don't want it to be so monotonous and so repetitive. All right, so give it a try and try to, kind of play around with different comparisons, so different types of comparisons that you can make. All right, let's move on. Sales of AMD. All right, you don't want present perfect here. You just want it to be followed, which is simple past. So sales of AMD followed a different trend during the year. From January to May, the number of chips sold were between 25,000 and, whoops, careful, you don't want to miss the zero. So we're between 25,000 and 30,000 with the exception of February when a surge to 120 was registered, capital the J. In June, the AMD sales fell to 0. I think that's really interesting. Do you want to highlight that somehow? Okay. Just something like, and interestingly enough, there were no sales recorded in June, while this was obviously the peak for Intel. Okay, so you could go back to that because that's a really interesting figure. Okay, so they fell to 0. Fine. A second surge was registered the following month. So this is a really interesting period. Okay, you've got June at 0, and then it's like a huge jump. Okay, so sales were still consistent during the next quarter. You don't have to give me all these numbers, really. And how is this consistent? So you're saying 50, and then it goes to 95 and 80. So that doesn't seem very consistent to me. Okay, you've got like fairly low and then really high and then lower again. So I don't know if I would have called that consistent. All right, moving on. Eventually, a second significant decline was recorded at the end of the year at 5,000 and 30,000. 5,000 really only? Or do you mean maybe 50,000? I just don't know. And 30,000 in November and December, respectively. Okay. Overall, sales of microprocessors changed significantly during 2017 with different trends between the two brands considered. Additionally, Intel recorded higher sales on average in comparison to AMD. All right, that's very nice. That's a nice overview. Okay, so we've talked a little about this. I see that there are some inaccuracies in your data. There is some repetition in your expressions. We've talked about this. I'd like you to vary some of the language up a little bit. Okay? So that's about it. Just you need to correct these now, return them back to us corrected. Don't forget to add to your error correction list. Send me new essays, please. I'm looking forward to them. So I'll let you get to it. All right? Good luck to you and your next essays.